That game was not good for my health. But hey, Clemson pulls out a 51-45 double overtime win against Wake Forest in Wake Forest. And DJ looked really good in this game. The offense looked really good for most of this game. In particular, the passing attack. The issue was our defense was not up to what the level it usually is. I mean, the passing defense in particular, the secondary, was banged up going into this game. And wow, did they perform bad. Even the defensive line didn't have a really good outing today. But hey, you walk out there with a win, you're going to get healthy, you're going to be better prepared for next week, hopefully, and have your guys back on the field, and it's a whole new week. So just move on from, you had a bad performance today, just got to move on and live to fight another day. But on the offensive end of the ball, very happy with how things went. Will Shipley opens the game with a 53-yard run. He finished the day with 104 rushing yards, and you know, that really means he had 51 rushing yards on 19 carries for the rest of the game. So really not a very productive running back after that first carry, but hey, overall, I still think the running game was a positive factor in this game today. With the exception of like the 5 or 6 inside runs they gave to Will Shipley that were all went for 1 yard in the second half, because I don't know why you even bother running that play over and over again, because it's just producing 1 yard every time. But outside of that one particular situation, the running game was usually pretty effective. But ultimately, it was the passing game that did it for Clemson today. DJ Uyunglele, 26-41. 371 yards, 5 touchdowns. This is the DJ I want to see at the helm for Clemson. He was taking the 50-50 shots. And the Clemson receivers, for the first time, what feels like a long time, were making those 50-50 catches. You had Ngata get a few passes. You had Bo Collins make some really good grabs. Jake Briggenstoll did pretty good at tight end. Antonio Williams had a really good, nice catch. Davis Allen came on in the clutch, getting 2 touchdowns for us. And Davis Allen's been that clutch, sure-handed guy at tight end, a veteran for us. Even AJ Williams made an appearance today. So really, a nice game for the passing attack, and hopefully a real big confidence builder as Clemson starts to enter a more difficult stretch of their season and in conference play. But yeah, the passing attack really is what kept Clemson together today, and it's really nice to see DJ Uyunglele hit some big plays, and it's nice to see them actually call plays that have the opportunity to produce big gains like this in the air, because previously, especially last season with Tony Elliott, we really didn't have many of those opportunities, and they really were not coming up in our favor. Today they were. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the defenses, because both Wake Forest and Clemson were missing multiple contributors in the secondary. Wake was missing their top cornerback, and they were banged up, so to be fair, it wasn't like we were beating up on a full power Wake Forest secondary, and we were missing quite a few guys as well. No all-ACC safety Andrew Mukuba today. No Malcolm Greene. No Sheridan Jones, who's the veteran in that cornerback room. And of course, that means all our freshmen, all our sophomores, all those younger guys have to step up and play more often. And really, they're just not ready. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They're just not ready for this kind of game, against this kind of competition. Wake Forest has A.T. Perry, they have Donovan Greene, they have Jamal Banks. I really don't know much about Jamal Banks, but I have done a little bit of study on A.T. Perry. I have a draft profile written up for him, and I've looked into Donovan Greene. These guys will be playing in the NFL at some point. And our corners were not ready for it. They just were not. Maybe next year, but not this season, it seems like. Nate Wiggins in particular, number 20, got burned quite a few times. If he wasn't getting burned deep, he was getting a penalty called on him. And frankly, I'm surprised it took them so long to start moving our safeties back and playing more too high to help out both the corners. But they eventually did, and that was the right defensive adjustment to do full time, because beforehand they were just getting burned deep consistently. And Nate Wiggins, by the way, did redeem himself. I know he had an awful game, and he probably had the worst game of any Clemson defender I've ever seen in my 5 or 6 years really following the team. But hey, he's the one who made the play at the very end of the game. That final pass breakup, which he really could have intercepted, but wasn't able to haul in. It just wasn't his day. But hey, he made that final play. He ended the game in favor of Clemson. And that's really what matters. So hopefully he's able to kind of mentally detach himself from this performance, because he was clearly a little rattled out there at different points in the game. Hopefully he's able to kind of step back, detach himself from this game, and get ready for next week. And that's really what I have to say for the entire defense, because frankly, it was not a good defensive day. Wake Forest could run the ball. Wake Forest was moving the ball on the ground. Their long mesh offense was productive today. I know they only averaged 2.8 yards per carry, but hey, they were carving us up for some plays, and they were getting positive runs consistently and getting yards through contact. And they were actually weaving in between our defensive linemen for decent gains. And I think it's partially because we were not getting into the backfield as often, as frequently as we're used to with our defensive line, despite having 4 or 5 future NFL defenders along that line. No Xavier Thomas today, by the way. But we were not getting to the backfield as frequently. And we really did not get pressure on Sam Hartman at all, what it felt like in the 3rd and 4th quarter. We did finally start getting to him and to the running back on that final drive of the game where Wake Forest ended up losing in double overtime. But we finally got pressure there. Previously, for most of the game, maybe with the exception of the second quarter, we were starting to get pressure in the second quarter and just did not carry that momentum into the second half, unfortunately. But yeah, the defensive line, actually outside of the Georgia Tech game, the defensive line has not played nearly as well as I had hoped they would this season, specifically in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback. Outside of that first Georgia Tech game, we have not really been great at pressuring quarterbacks this year. So that's something I think we actually need to keep an eye on. So we keep talking about how good this defense is, and it's very good on the defensive front. But it's not been living up to the standard we would expect of a team with so many future NFL players. And tip of the hat to Sam Hartman, Jamal Banks, those guys for Wake Forest. Sam Hartman completed 20 of 29 pass attempts for 337 yards and 6 touchdowns. Just a really good job by him today. And he's a fantastic college quarterback for them in Wake Forest, obviously. Jamal Banks, 6 receptions, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was the guy we ultimately could not guard going deep. So, I mean, you have to tip the cap to them for taking us double overtime and playing so well and just matching us every time they had and actually taking the lead at different points in the game. For Clemson, anyone I really want to shout out, I've talked about most of the guys I wanted to mention. Brian Brzee had some really good plays. Tyler Davis, I think, was probably the best defensive player for us today. If I had to pick one guy, Davis made a lot of plays, specifically in the second half when no one else was really stepping up. Brzee had some good plays. KJ Henry, some nice tackles in the run game. Miles Murphy flashed a couple of times. Basically the entire defensive line. Rook was there too. Rook had made some plays. Obviously, you have to talk about kicking. You have to talk about BT Potter. I mean, I'm going to miss this dude. I'm really going to miss BT Potter. He's been so clutch for us. When he eventually leaves, I am going to miss him because he's been so clutch for us over the course of his career. Not getting in the field goal today, and of course, making all the extra points. 3 field goals, 4 extra points. Perfect game for him. He is the standard of Clemson special teams. Because frankly, the punting's not nearly what the kicking unit is. So I was very pleased with how he performed, obviously. And I like this. I don't have much more to add, really. The offensive line was pretty good today. I don't feel like DJ got pressured too much. Of course, he did get sacked in a crucial point in the game in the second half, but really I felt like he was protected for most of the game. It didn't feel like he was running for his life too often. The run game, the blocking still needs to be better there, but I think it's kind of what it is that comes at this point in terms of the run blocking. Defensively, I think we could have made some adjustments sooner than when we did. But overall, you're dealing with a lot of backup guys who are pretty inexperienced. So I'm kind of willing to let that slide for this week, but we can in the future. So in the future, I do hope that we call more of these plays that can produce these big shots downfield on offense and help on defense. We're going to make more adjustments early on in the games, especially when we feel like things are starting to slide against us the way they were today. But yeah, that's all for my recap. I'm going to go watch Florida versus Tennessee. You guys have a good weekend.